Here.
Steve O'Brien, ADOT.
Here.
Raj Thowden, Avondale. Raj. John Willett, Buckeye. John McFarland, Chandler.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Jennifer Acuna, Federal Highway Administration. Christopher Salas, Town of Florence. Susanna Struble, Gilbert. Excuse me for the pronunciation, but Parab Adabala, City of Glendale,
Present.
is acting as proxy.
Yes, thank you.
Present.
Yes, present.
Oh, thank you. Brian Harville, Goodyear. Keith Dranowski, Litchfield Park. Scott Nodes, City of Maricopa.
Good afternoon, present.
Thank you. Drew Segato, proxy for McDOT.
Present.
Sabine King, Mesa.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Cooper, Paradise Valley. Charles Andrews, Peoria.
Present.
Thank you. Leticia Vargas, City of Phoenix. Christopher Wanamaker, Pinell County. Brad Novacek, Wing Creek.
Excuse me, John here, Gary Cooper's here. Sorry.
I apologize. For which city?
Town of Paradise Valley.
Paradise Valley. Jerry Cooper. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
This is
Brad
Brad
Novak-
Novacek.
Queen Creek. Thank you, Brad. Jennifer Jack, Salt River, Pima, Mount Maricopa Indian Community. Nathan Domi, Scottsdale.
Here.
Corey Steele, Tempe.
Present.
Gabriel Elias, City of Tolleson.
Here.
Grant Anderson, Youngtown.
Here.
All right. That concludes roll call. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 2 is the call to the audience. MAG provides the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. Members of the public are invited to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Thank you, Chair. We've received no online written comments for the call to the audience.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the MAG staff report. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Patrick Stone, MAG Deputy Transportation Director. Patrick?
Thank you, Chair, members of the Street Committee. Pleasure to be here this afternoon. Couple of quick updates. First, want to note that beginning with the next Street Committee meeting, we will have a new MAG member staffing. Velvet Matthew, who is our Freeway Engineering Program Manager, will be taking my role with Street Committee as I am now moving over to assist with the Transportation Review Committee. So Velvet will be filling in, giving the staff report and the updates. Other item to note for those plugged in, we currently have a call for projects going on. Excuse me. Right now we have both fiscal year 25 street sweepers and fiscal year 2025 traffic signal optimization projects out on the street for member agencies to submit applications. Those TSOP projects are due a little later this month on the 26th, and then the street sweepers will be due on the 13th. There is a workshop this Thursday at 10 a.m. virtual for member agencies to present any questions I might have or to get some assistance. Also want to note, currently targeting the 16th of September to have a call for projects coming out for paving unpaved roads. This committee has a lot to do with that particular call, intending to do the call, as I said, September 16th, and looking at fiscal years 26, 27, and 28 for funding. And with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Item number 4 is the approval of the June 6th, 2024 special meeting minutes. Does any member of the committee have any questions regarding the meeting minutes? Hearing and seeing none, prior to approval of the meeting minutes, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. Staff, have we received any online written comments for this item?
Thank you, Chair. We received no online written comments for this agenda item.
Thank you. So can I have a motion to approve agenda item number 4, and please state your name and jurisdiction when you're doing so? Can I get a motion?
Scott Nodes.
Approved.
Mayor
Tana
Coppola.
Gilbert.
Go ahead.
Can you say your name again? From Gilbert?
Susanna Struble, Tana Gilbert. Yes.
Thank you. And can I get a second?
Scott Nodes, City Mayor Coppola, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We will have those participating in the meeting take part in a voice vote by turning on your cameras and unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct the roll call vote. Staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. So please turn your cameras on now. Okay, can I have a voice vote? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then staff, when you're ready, I'll proceed to the nays.
Thank you, Chair. I believe you proceed with the nays, and then I will call for those that don't have their cameras on.
Sounds good. Those opposed say nay. Hearing none. Members, please leave your cameras on, and staff, can you take roll call of the members who did not turn on their cameras?
Thank you, Chair. Nathan Domi. Grant Anderson.
Yay. Aye.
Thank you. Brad Novacek.
Aye.
And have I missed anybody? I'm looking through quickly.
Ryan, I think Charles Andrews with
Charles Andrews.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody can turn off their videos and mute themselves. Item number 5 is the Arterial Life Cycle Program Status Report from January 2024 to June 2024. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Carrie Kassler, MAG Transportation Planner. Carrie?
Thank you, Chair. I apologize. My camera is not turning on, so bear with me. I'm just going to be my voice. I hope that's okay. As the Chair mentioned, I will be presenting on the Arterial Life Cycle Program Status Report for the January through June portion of fiscal year 2024. Next slide, please. So the Arterial Life Cycle Program, or the ALCP, is the portion of the regional transportation plan, that provides the regional funding to widen existing streets, improve intersections, and construct new arterial segments. As outlined in the policies and procedures that were last approved on June 26th of 2024, a status report is required to be produced twice a year. That includes updated revenue forecasts, project changes, or any updates made for the programmed reimbursements. Next slide, please. The Arterial Life Cycle Program has 2 revenue sources, the first being the Regional Area Road Fund, which is a percentage of the half-cent sales tax allocated to the ALCP. The actual revenues was slightly higher, 0.7% higher than the estimated, which is to be expected as the ALCP winds down in the program, as the tax will end in 2025. The second revenue source is federal funding, with portions of federal grant programs being allocated to the region. Next slide, please. This is sort of an overview of the work that was done in fiscal year 2024. 60 projects were scheduled for work and or reimbursement, with one project opening to traffic. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the RARF reimbursements totaled to $51.9 million and the federal obligations totaled to $75.3 million. Next slide, please. This is those same numbers, just graphically. You can sort of see the remaining balances of both the federal and RARF funding. And again, you can see them winding down as we get closer and closer to the end of the Prop 400 ALCP. Next slide, please. Within the agenda packet is the full status report, and inside that are several tables that outline all projects programmed for work or reimbursement in fiscal year 2024, and then further broken down between funding sources of regional or federal funds. Next slide, please. Within each status report, we do a project highlight. This section, or this time, we chose to highlight the City of Phoenix project at Happy Valley Road, 67th Ave to 35th Ave. This is a major arterial roadway that supports local and regional commuting traffic from Interstate I-17. This offers an alternative route and aims to improve traffic flow and safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. So these are some photos supplied by the City of Phoenix. Next slide, please. Mr. Chair, this item was just for information, but I'm happy to take any questions or anything you guys have for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Do any members have any questions or comments regarding this? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Arizona Department of Transportation Multimodal Planning Division Traffic Data Update. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Sanya Kadich-Jahar, ADOT Traffic Monitoring Local Government Liaison, and Lucas Murray, the ADOT GIS HPMS Analyst. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can, Sanya. Thank you.
Excellent. 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 Thank you for having both Lucas and I here today to provide an update. The first couple of slides are very brief. We meet quarterly with Matt, Mr. Wong Sang and his team on traffic data coordination and outreach efforts on both ADOT's side and MAG's side, local member agencies' efforts. So we really do, I want to express that this partnership is really crucial in having MAG, not only MAGs, but any COG and MPOs' traffic program out there a success. Frequent and open communication is a key to success of any program. We all know that the ability to understand future needs of the transportation system is quantified with traffic data during the planning process. And any tip and step developed without adequate traffic data is certainly not reliable, potentially misleading the public.
Sanya, you're breaking up a bit.
We always have to keep it by federal requirements to have a traffic count program statewide. And that requirement is 23 CFR 500, Part 500, Subpart B. So I always say ADOT is mandated, but really we highly encourage all local member agencies, COG and MPOs, towns, cities, counties, statewide, to collect traffic data. But collection of the traffic data is just a part of it. When we say collection is part of it, collecting and having the data somewhere on a drive or on someone's computer does not help HPMS reporting. When that data gets shared in MS2, which is the central ADOT central database where all the traffic counts statewide live, is where the job is really completed, and we're ready to submit or incorporate that data into HPMS report annually to FHWA. So let's have a look on the next slide, the numbers, or rather counts within MAG. We've met with MAG at the last quarterly meeting. I think it was April 17th, if I'm not mistaken. And the blue bar represents the data shared with MAG at that quarterly meeting in April. However, that data was as of January of 2024. So currently we're at the purple chart. It's data at the purple charts is from June of 2024. I wanted to compare how did MAG do from January to June, and as always, I was pleasantly surprised. Please note, at-risk category is still a category that is current counts. So when at-risk category gets added to the current category, you have a complete picture of the most current traffic counts. So we're looking at 5035 and 377, I don't know, 5,400 or so current counts. We're going down, which is a great trend. Overdue counts are going down. Our current counts are going up, which is great. We just have a slight opportunity in this missing counts category. And I always say, I'm never worried about missing counts, because we could be sitting on the collected counts that haven't been shared, or perhaps it was some reference equation issue in MS2, or some other factors could be the reason. So I would take a look at those when you get a chance at the missing counts and the comparison between January of 2024 and June of 2024. With that said, on the next slide, I simply wanted us to have a look at the, and maybe 6 more times, Patrick or whomever's advancing, I have 6 bullet points on this slide. I mentioned already April 17th as our last quarterly meeting. I had sent out mid-collection year or mid-calendar year traffic counts notification just before I went on a vacation. It was June 27th, potentially even June 28th. Our next quarterly meeting is in October. And the reason why we've delayed it from April to October is simply we're here today discussing some updates. I usually send out final call for counts November, December of each calendar year. And I also send out a reminder in January of the following collection or calendar year. So it will be January 2025. Are to be shared with the 1st of 2025. And if you haven't seen, there was a survey that went out that I had sent out sometimes in May. We're collecting interest in having a statewide MS2 / traffic monitoring / traffic viewer and traffic movement counts, the training statewide with all of the COGs and MPOs. So we're planning to have that training no earlier than January of 2025. So I will keep you posted as to when that training will really take place. And last but not the least, it's just our, on the next slide, just our GIS group and our traffic monitoring group and our consultants' contact information. With that, that will conclude my presentation. Do I have any questions before I turn the ropes to my colleague, Lucas Murray? Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Do any members have questions for Sonia? Seeing none, let's turn it over to Lucas.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody. I also want to introduce my my boss, who's going to be co-presenting with me today. Sage Donaldson is here. Just curious, is there any way that Sage would be able to share her screen for this presentation?
Yep, just give me one moment.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Sage is now a co-host and should be able to share the screen.
Awesome. All right.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Lucas.
All right, so thank you, everybody, again for your time today. Sage and I were invited to come here to talk about the functional classification change request process that we have set up. So we'll be talking about that and giving you an overview. We can go next slide. And so just want to start by making sure we're all on the same page on what exactly is functional classification. Next slide. So functional class specifically classifies roads based on characteristics such as traffic volume, surrounding area, these kind of characteristics. It helps to identify roads that are used mainly for moving a lot of traffic versus roads that are more generalized for like localized traffic to get people to and from their homes or something like that. There are 7 classifications from the Federal Highway Administration. Those include a federal functional class of 1, which is an interstate. Class of 2 is freeways, and a class of 3 are principal arterials other. These are roads that aren't quite as busy as a freeway, but they are still pretty important for heavy truck traffic or something, especially like big event venues like stadiums or I don't know, warehouses or something like that. You also have a class of 4, which are your minor arterials. Class of 5 is a major collector. Class of 6 is minor collectors. And then finally, a class of 7 are local roads. And so these start out with interstates being very high volume, trying to focus more on mobility, just getting cars to and from their point, to local roads that are a little bit more destination focused, helping people get to and from their homes, businesses, that kind of stuff. The functional class is extremely important, especially when it comes to federal aid distribution, because federal aid is distributed based on what the functional classification of a road is. Specifically, there are 2 types of roads that are not eligible for federal aid. That includes rural minor collectors and all local roads. So either of these roads, if any kind of projects need to be done, they are going to need to have some sort of alternative source, or you can look into changing functional class of these roads to something that would make them eligible for federal aid. And that's what we're going to talk about a bit more today. I do also want to mention, some of you may have heard about this new federal report that's going to be coming out in a couple of years. It's the Model Inventory of Roadway Events, or the MIRE report, that's focused a lot on safety analysis. The report does have additional requirements for rural minor collectors, local roads, and that kind of stuff. Nothing in MIRE is going to affect whether a road is eligible for federal aid or not. So just wanted to point that out, that MIRE is not going to affect federal aid eligibility. So is the road you want federal funding for eligible? We have a couple of resources to help you determine that. The first resource here that Sage is going to be going to is an interactive map that would let you zoom in or zoom out on the map to view what our current functional classification is. This specific map is updated once a year along with the HPMS. So just keep in mind that Like at the moment, it's showing 2022 functional classification. We're going to be updating it with 2023 here in a little bit because we're just a couple days away from getting functional classification approved by FHWA. So it is just a year off, but it does show what the functional classification looks like now. The second link here is a guidance report on what functional classification is. So it goes into a lot more specifics about what each of those functional classes are. So if you're thinking about changing the functional class of, say, a minor collector up to a major collector, you can navigate to those pages and really learn specifics on what would be the requirements to be able to move that road up to a new functional class. So you can see general characteristics. You can even compare a minor collector to a local road or a major collector to see whether what the differences and similarities are between the two. And then down below is reclassifying the road's functional classification. This is what we're going to be talking about today, is the AZGeo We Love Your Input tool. This is the online tool that will allow you to submit change requests when you want to do them. So we'll get a lot more detail of that as we move through this presentation. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sage Donaldson.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for letting us show you this today. I'm going to go ahead and walk through this in the slideshow, and then I'll do a really brief demo of it as well, just so you can see both. But this is the vehicle to request changes to your functional classification, whether that's upgrading it or downgrading it for any of the reasons that Lucas just recently pointed out. This is the We Love Your Input tool. The idea is that you guys can come in here and share information about why you think a road should be upgraded or downgraded in functional class. It's hosted on AZGeo, which is an ArcGIS Online hub platform hosted by the Arizona State Land Department. It's a custom-built online application. Oh, I just said it's hosted. So to start, you'll go ahead and zoom in on the route that you'd like to request a change on and select it. At that point, once you select the route, it'll tell you whether or not there's already a request on it. There can be a numerous amount of reasons why there might be another request. There could be a request that wasn't initiated by yourself or by another department. But this will just tell you whether or not the road is already having a pending request. At that point, you'll confirm that the segment listed, so the from and to of the road, and you can check the actual LRS IDs as well. You can see what it is, what the extent is, what the current functional classification is, and who owns the road. Next, you'll go ahead and justify the request. So you'll say you want it to be a minor collector for a various number of reasons. Maybe it gets more traffic than a major collector does. Maybe you're going to have a project on there. Maybe you've added a bike lane. Regardless of that, you'll go ahead and justify it. That'll include telling us whether or not the AADT is on MS2. This is one of the biggest ways that we determine whether or not the functional classification request meets the needs of your request. So having that AADT available to us is really huge. At that point, you'll upload any documents that you like to. This can be anything from already approved meeting minutes where you've already discussed this and approved it as the street committee, or it could be something like a study that you did to show that it warrants a new classification. Then you'll go ahead and just save and notify, which effectively submits your request. Note here, you can remove people from it and you can add people to it. So if you'd like to include additional members of this request, someone that might be an important person to have in it, you can add them here. You'll also see that in your save and notify box, there will be all the stakeholders necessary for the road that you are requesting. So you'll get all of the MAG people, and then whoever might be the road owner and who might be the auxiliary road owners that could be affected by the request. You can see here we've got the county, Queen Creek, Maricopa City, and Mesa and Gilbert. So this is one that would be important for all of these jurisdictions to be aware of. What this does is it opens up our communication box between ADOT, FHWA, and the local agency requesting the functional class change. So you'll get an email that just has the information about the ticket. It has the information about where it is and notifying ADOT, which is this NPDGIS email, about who the tickets come from, what it's entailing and what their request is out of it. It then comes to us behind the application in the back end of the application, where we can go through and view the ticket and start the conversation of what needs to be added, what additional information we need, and a map of where it is. We have this bar telling you where your ticket is in the process. Here we can see the right criteria here that you've given us, and then you'll see the status here, resolved being a completed request. So we'll then use the map to actually look at the area. I'm going to go back one real quick. You can see that they've included the AADT on this one, the date this request came in, and what the desired classification was, as well as all the information needed in order for us to really understand what the context of this request is and whether or not it makes sense to upgrade or downgrade it. Like I said, we have a map of it too, where we can actually look at the geography of the request and also the connectivity of it. Important things that we look at is what are the surrounding functional classifications? Are you going from a really high functional class to a really low? Basically what our connectivity is. We can change this to look at our imagery as well, so we can get an idea of what's really around it. Do you have an airport, a Walmart, a mining facility, whatever that might be. In the ticket view, this is the conversation that we talk about. So you'll see here we have different information going back and forth between us and FHWA, or us and you as a local entity. We will come in here and add comments such as we need traffic counts to support this, or we need to understand what study has been done in order to reflect the changes needed. But this is our main way to communicate back and forth about this request. And this is where the tool really kind of gets the power, so that you can really tell us what you need, and we can really have a conversation about the request and make sure that we're satisfying both ends. Yeah. So before I hand it to Lucas, I will just really quick show everybody. I think most of you are fairly familiar with the tool, but I will just pull it up and just kind of show you real quick what it looks like. So this is the interface. The important thing to note is that you will need an AZGeo account in order to access the tool. So if you do have a functional classification request you'd like to put in, you will need to request an account. But we'll go ahead and we'll click on a road. If you can see there, it highlighted this road red. And down here, it's got the suggest a change button, as well as all the information that we just discussed. So I'll go ahead and suggest a change. It's going to validate the center line behind the data. And we'll pull up that screen in just a second. So here you can see there's no requests on this road. So I can continue with making the request. It gives me all the information needed. This is owned by the city of Phoenix. It's currently a locally functionally classified road. Here I can say I want it to go to a minor collector for some amount of reason. I've got the MAG AADT source there, but I can always click this and add the AADT as well. Can also notify whether or not the street committee has approved it. Attach any new documents. And then here's the people that have been pulled as part of our area tags in order to know who should be notified, and I can add more people to this. On the back end, here's just another example of what that looks like live. So this is just a request that we got recently, and here's the information that we've looked at back and forth. Here are the different segments that they requested and what the current functional classification is and who the owner is. And a map of just the different information done. We'll approve this or deny it when we need to, and it'll go to FHWA, and then they'll go ahead and approve it, and that is when it'll be official. Lucas, I'll go ahead and hand it back to you.
Well, thank you. So as Sage had mentioned about using this site, the site is behind the AZGeo website, so you do need to have an account with AZGeo to be able to access it. The account is completely free to everyone, so it's pretty easy to set one up. Yeah, so once you log in, it's free. Also, just a note that submissions to this site are suggestions only. I just want to be clear about that. That when you submit a change to this application, it's just making a suggestion. Nothing is going to be made official until FHWA gives their thumbs up. So we can go to the next slide. We have been working pretty hard at engaging with local agencies. We work with each of the COG and MPOs, trying to make it to at least a couple meetings a year, maybe one, depending on who they are. But we try to do demonstrations as much as possible. We do also offer free training. So if any of you would like us to sit down with you and show you how to use this tool, we're certainly happy to do that, not just with MAG, but also with your local agencies as well, anybody who's interested in it. And next steps, we do have some changes that we're planning on for the near future. The biggest one is we are planning on converting this site into an ArcGIS Experience Builder application. What that means is the site is going to potentially look different and might even act a little different, but it's still going to be able to accomplish the same thing. We don't really have a timeline on that, but you might see some of those changes. We're hoping by the end of the year, if not early next year. The other thing is that contact list. So when Sage was submitting a ticket, it had a list of people that it would send that ticket to. We are working on trying to find a process to keep that list better up to date, because as people move around, it's been difficult to find out who needs to be contacted and when. So we're working on a strategy for that as well. And I believe that's everything. So thank you again, everybody, for your time. Appreciate it. And we'll accept any questions at this point too. Yeah.
Thank you, Sage and Lucas. Do any members have questions or comments on the presentation?
This is Anderson from Youngtown. Is there appeal process if the FHWA does not rule in which favor that the community would prefer?
Sort of. We really try to make it a back and forth process, you know, and try to come up with ways that we can make sure that your functional classification request makes sense, or that we can modify it to maybe a different classification that still kind of accomplishes the needs. So it's not necessarily a formal appeals request, but we will kind of work with you back and forth a decent amount before it goes to a denial. ADOT is sort of the first line of approval, and typically FHWA does agree with us and trust us, and we communicate with our division head kind of throughout the whole process. So we're well aware fairly early on if it's a request that can go through or if it's one that needs to be modified.
Thank you.
So question
Any
on
other
the
questions?
I'm sorry, this is the PPF City of Phoenix. On the contact list, the example you pulled up, there was an update that needs to be made. Do we send those directly to you, or how do we go about that?
I guess, yeah, send them directly to us. We'll probably have a new process for that in the upcoming year. But yeah, for now, I guess send them to us. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions from the membership? Seeing none, thank you again, Lucas, Sonia, and Sage for your presentation.
Thanks all.
Moving on to item number 7, which is request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? Hearing and seeing none, move on to item number 8, which is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership? Again, hearing and seeing none. So if that's it, then we are ready to adjourn. The next meeting of the street committee will be on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at 1 p.m. With no further business, today's meeting is adjourned at 1:39 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.